And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday. We have a lot to talk about on today's show as we normally do, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes it more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment. So, let's get right into what we are going to discuss today. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl rematch from last night, the Eagles getting the win over the Chiefs. So we'll talk about that in a second. Then in the second segment, we will actually do a college football segment. We're going to discuss the cheating scandal with Michigan and all that. We'll go into that. I'll give you my thoughts on it because I know it's a big topic, something that we wanted to get out and give our opinion on it here. So I'll get into that in the second part of the show. In the third part of the show, we'll go through the power rankings that were released this week in the NFL. I'll give you my thoughts on that, and then we'll go through the standings as well. So that's basically the rundown for the show today as we're moving right along here. And, so let's get right into the first part of the show, which is talking about last night's Super Bowl rematch between the Eagles and the Chiefs. And I did say this was going to be lower scoring than it was in the Super Bowl because that was 38-35. I was like, we're not going to get that. But my takeaways from this game, Eagles, I think, are the best team in football. That's one thing. And then regarding the Chiefs, their offense is still kind of in a slump right now. But also their defense, again, it showed out last night. I think they sacked Jalen Hurts 5 times. The defense played really well. It's the offense that let them down. Scoring 0 points 3 weeks in a row in the second half. You would not expect that from the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's the case. Their offense does not look good right now, and drops are a problem for this team. I think they lead the NFL in drops with 26, and the biggest drop of the night was Mahomes heaving that long pass downfield to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and he dropped it. And that would have set up, I don't think it would have been a touchdown. It would have set up 1st and goal from like the 1-yard line, and they probably would have scored, and that would have put them up by 3, and the Eagles would have had to go down the field to try to tie it. But that was not the case. It was a tale of two halves. You had the Chiefs dominating the first half, going into halftime up by 10, and the Eagles, they shut them out in the second half, and they got the win. Jalen Hurts was not playing good. Like I said, he was getting sacked all over the place. He threw a pick, which I didn't realize this, but that was to L'Jarius Sneed, and A.J. Brown ripped it out and got the ball back. And for some reason, they didn't reverse. They didn't change the call, and the Chiefs maintained possession. I honestly didn't realize that. I did not realize that. But so that ended up happening. But the Chiefs got the ball. I don't know what happened on that ensuing possession. So that was. Then they traded interceptions. So then the Chiefs went down the field. They got in the red zone, and then Mahomes threw the pick to Kevin Byard, obviously the Eagles' new acquisition. That was intended for Justin Watson. They traded picks, so that didn't really do anything. Eagles punted. Chiefs went up 14-7. Travis Kelce scored a touchdown from 4 yards out. And then the Eagles punted, and then Harrison Butker kicked a field goal, 43-yard field goal to end the half. So, the Chiefs were up by 10. Each team on their first 2 possessions in the second half, they traded punts. Then the Eagles scored a touchdown, 7 plays, 61 yards. Jalen Hurts had a rushing touchdown, so that made it a 3-point game. And then the Chiefs fumbled. Travis Kelce fumbled on that possession. Eagles punted, Chiefs punted. Then the Eagles went ahead 21-17. Hurts connected with Devontae Smith for 41 yards, and that set up the tush push for the touchdown. That put them up by 4. Each team traded punts on their next possessions. Chiefs turned it over on downs. It looked like Mahomes could have, converted that pass to Justin Watson on 4th and 25. It looked like he could have caught it, but he didn't. And then the Eagles kneeled it down, and that was it. So we look at the stats for the game. Jalen Hurts, 14-22, 150 yards passing, no touchdowns and a pick. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. DeAndre Swift, he had a good game, 12 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. Was involved in the passing game as well, 3 for 31. Devontae Smith was their leading receiver, 6 receptions for 99 yards. A.J. Brown only had 1 catch for 8 yards. So, yeah, I mean, the Eagles did not play great on offense, but they still got it done. And then as for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes went 24-43, 177 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Isaiah Pacheco had 89 yards rushing on the ground. Their leading receiver was Justin Watson. He had 5 for 53 and a touchdown. Travis Kelce had 7 for 44 and a touchdown. But, yeah, the Chiefs just, again, continue to struggle on offense. I thought they would pull out the win, but, the Eagles, they got it done. I mean, they won ugly, and now they, they continue to have the best record in the NFL right now. And right now I look at them as the best team right now in the NFL. The fact that they, played awful on offense for most of the game, and they were still able to come away with the win. I mean, team is very good. I still think, right now, I mean, obviously my tune has changed a little bit because earlier in the year I said the Niners were the best team, but I don't know. For me, the way the season's kind of played out, right now I look at the Eagles right now as the best team in the NFC, and right now I think they're the best team in the NFL. They could beat you a lot of different ways. I think, obviously, every team is beatable. I mean, they lost to the Jets. But right now, with how the Chiefs' offense has been struggling, and especially because these two teams just went against each other and they beat them in Arrowhead, I got to give the edge to the Eagles at the moment. They're the best team. That doesn't mean that the 49ers can't go in there in a couple of weeks and beat them. It's possible. But I think right now, when you're talking about the best team in the NFL, I think right now it's the Eagles. I got to see what the Niners can do when they play them. And then as for the Chiefs, I mean, 0 points in the second half for the last 3 weeks. That is, I mean, you would not expect that from them. And they don't have an elite wide receiver. That's a problem. That's something they really didn't address at the deadline. They should have tried and improved in that area. I mean, they got McCole Hardman, who knows the system, but, I mean, he's not an elite wide receiver. Travis Kelce hasn't, been setting the world on fire the last couple of weeks. People are talking about him and if he's kind of lost a step. And actually, I did see that he's been, thinking about retirement more than he's ever had because he's in so much pain. And that's something that you don't want to hear. Because, we saw what happened with Rob Gronkowski. I mean, the guy was unbelievable. One of the greatest tight ends of all time, if not the greatest tight end of all time. And, yeah, he was in a lot of pain, too. He was always getting hurt. Kelce is a different kind of tight end. He's, more agile. They're different tight ends, but, I mean, those are the 2 best tight ends of my lifetime. And, yeah, I mean, Kelce is, he's getting older. So, obviously, I mean, he could be thinking about retirement. That's what he said. And that's Patrick Mahomes' security blanket. Now if you take Travis Kelce away, I mean, you look at these wide receivers, there's nobody that scares you. I mean, Valdez-Scantling dropped that pass last night. Rashee Rice is still a rookie. You throw in a Justin Watson. Kadarius Toney, they had him returning punts, and, he was, making a few plays last night in the return game. And they actually had him coming out of the backfield, too. But, yeah, I mean, there's nobody that really scares you on this offense. And that's a problem. And if this offense could figure it out, this team is the team to beat. because their defense is really good this year. And now, unfortunately, you got your offenses struggling, which is what's carried you to 2 Super Bowl championships over the last several years. So, the Chiefs, they got some problems on offense that they need to, figure it out. But, I've kind of said from the beginning, I don't really think this team is going to repeat, because right now on offense, they're not looking that good. Like I said, they got their issues. I think what's going to have to carry them this year is their defense at the moment. It's a problem. They're they're kind of in some trouble with how the offense has been, but if there's one thing that you shouldn't do until it's official, is you can't count out the Chiefs. You can't. Because if you do that, then you're going to look foolish when they figure it out. But, and every team in the AFC, they got their flaws. Look at the Ravens, and how they played against the Browns a couple weeks ago. You see some of the wild card teams. The Steelers with their quarterback issues, and they fired their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, so he's gone, which is about time. The Browns, their quarterback situation now, everybody's got their issues. So, they got to. I think they're still okay, in terms of that, but. You got to figure it. You got to figure it out on offense. You just have to, because you're not going to win in the playoffs if you're scoring 0 points in the second half. So, but that was a big win for the Eagles, despite them looking bad on offense last night. They looked horrible at one point during the game. I think it was in the second half. Jalen Hurts, in terms of fantasy points, he had at least on Sleeper, he had .44 points. Decimal point, 44 points. He couldn't do any. They couldn't do anything, and then they woke up. And you figured that was going to happen, because you can't. The Chiefs had to. They never put down the knockout punch. They never had that knockout punch, and the Eagles, they slowly but surely came back into the game. And Hurts connected with Devontae Smith on that nice long pass, and they took the lead and they didn't look back. The Chiefs, they couldn't overcome that. So, but it was a good game. It was a definitely not as high scoring as the Super Bowl, of course. I finished with 8 wins on the week in the spread pool. Eagles covered, but they also won. I didn't have them winning. But, so Eagles get the redemption on the Super Bowl there. But they obviously got their sights on a Super Bowl, so we'll see. But they right now I think they are the best team in the NFL at the moment. With that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about some college football. We're going to get into talking about the Michigan cheating scandal. I'll give you my thoughts on that when we come back from our first break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.